Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Halifax International Security Forum in Nova Scotia, Canada, one of the world's truly great security forums. Our coverage here is sponsored by Boeing and Leonardo DRS, and it's my pleasure to be talking to Mikhail Kasyanov, who is a former Russian Prime Minister from 2000 to 2004, now the chief of the People's Freedom Party. Mikhail, it's always a pleasure seeing you. We've interviewed...
It's a great pleasure to be here again. Thank you.
Absolutely. So last year here, you said to me, it's only a matter of time that democracy is going to succeed. And at the time, people said you were crazy. But now things are moving in Russia. Give us kind of a snapshot on where we are, how significant these protests are, and whether or not ultimately it is going to drive a change in the Russian government.
I think the situation, again, could be viewed as, my statement could be again viewed as crazy. But we have changes already. We started changes in people's minds. And right now we have much more social protests on the streets of our cities. And in fact now just we came to the, I would say, as we call it, transition process. We have two constitutional events coming soon. In the year 2021 we have Duma elections, our parliament, which could be important constitutional calendar day for changes. For Mr. Putin, it's time to decide whether he wants a gradual changes or he will continue to squeeze the whole environment. And I think it could be 2021 would be the last opportunity for peaceful transformation, because just we already have 6 years in a row people's real income decline, and people started feeling just absolutely a wrong situation. And those who supported Mr. Putin before thought that people around him responsible for their bad life, but now they reconsidering their questions and try to find the right answers. That's why popularity of Mr. Putin is falling down rapidly. In big cities like in Moscow, or St. Petersburg or Yekaterinburg, his popularity is like 10%. Although we should say approximately 40% still believe that Putin is the right person, although propaganda says that's 85, whatever, 70%, but in reality 40%. That's what I think just we still have an opportunity, and I'm always an optimist because I cannot be a pessimist because in my political agenda, but I believe that within a few years we will have a chance for changes.
Do you think Putin gets forced from office? Because there are people who say that he is unlikely to be forced from office, and if he's forced from office, somebody worse will replace him.
I don't think just the right strategy would be to force him in office now, but I think if he used this opportunity, as I said, to allow opposition to be in parliament, it means beginning of the end, gradual end. And in this case, in the year 2024, he could depart with the building up an appropriate exit strategy for himself. And then we'll have a peaceful transformation and we'll start building up, maybe not immediately, because I don't think just Democrats immediately will come up as my party just to the power, but we'll have strong position like with 20% support, and that will we start building just new government, responsible, and we move Russia back to the track of building up democracy and market economy.
Are you cooperating with the other Democratic parties? I mean, historically, sometimes in moments like this, everybody has been pushing their own agenda. Are all of you coming together to drive to a common outcome?
That's the main problem. That's what I, for many years, trying to consolidate, and just I continue to call other groups. In fact, we have 4 groups which we would like to be consolidated, and will have a unified front of fighting in the upcoming elections, but it's not successful yet. But there are some features that people start realizing their responsibility for the future of the country. And that's what I'll continue to call our colleagues to be together and to start preparing for our, I would say, peaceful fight on the streets and on the voting stations in the upcoming future.
What can the international community do to help the Russian people in this process?
It's important question and important requests. Russia is a part of OSCE. Russia is founder of this organization, and there is a, I would say, special so-called Copenhagen Protocol which describes what those free elections are about. And we'd like our allies, I would say our partners on this organization, would demand from Putin and his authority to have a real free and fair elections, as our international obligations describe it in this protocol of OEC, protocol what free elections are. And that's why now we'd like the appropriate criticism would apply to Putin and his administration, so that to change legislation and to change those rules so that elections 2021 would look as really free and in accordance with international standards, in accordance with the obligation of Russian government.
How damaging is it when the President of the United States appears to, we heard during the impeachment testimony from Fiona Hill that this notion that Ukraine interfered with America's 2016 elections was Russian propaganda, was Russian disinformation. Does that, and she said that when every time a lie like this is repeated, it actually helps Moscow. From your perspective, is that the case?
I think that blaming Ukrainian, whatever authority, whatever, for interference on the elections to 2016, that's absolutely out of the picture. They have no capability, and there was not a case at all. I agree that it is Russian propaganda, and unfortunately that it's used just in the wrong way.
And at home, how do you counter Russian propaganda and disinformation at home? A lot of this is actually directed at the Russian people, which is the reason, in part, Putin has had the kind of support that he's had. How do average Russians who are eager to make a change, how do they protect themselves from this kind of disinformation?
We have complete disinformation, just all television. That's all under Putin's control, and each channel is propaganda. That's why Russians and our supporters, what we have approximately 15-20% of supporters, that's people middle class living in big cities. They use internet. We still have free internet, I can confirm this. There is a danger of losing this freedom because just each time they initiate different law or changes in laws, etc. But we still have free internet. And those people, middle class people, just they can opportunity and they have a possibility to change, to compare different views or what judgment of one or another event taking place in Russia or outside using the different source of information. And that's why we're still alive. I think democracy potentially could win, and I hope to achieve this.
I hope so too. Mikhail Kasyanov, who is Russia's former prime minister and head of the People's Freedom Party. Mikhail, good luck. And I think the entire free world is pulling for Russia to turn a corner and finally become the democratic nation that so many people want.
Thank you very much indeed.